so much for joining us on the last session of Bett 2025. We are going to be discussing a topic today that is arguably a leading barrier to EdTech adoption in Southeast Asia and in many other parts of the world, but it's also an issue that is often overlooked and isn't discussed very, at all really in any type of rhetoric regarding EdTech adoption and the requirements for EdTech adoption, despite it being so fundamental. When we look at the infrastructure required for digital learning, there's many components required in order to facilitate effective digital learning and also, of course, digital teaching, right? Not only do we require electricity, IT support, of course, the hardware and devices, but we also need teacher training as absolutely essential, training them on how to integrate these solutions into the pedagogy, into their everyday teaching. But none of that is possible without internet connectivity, consistent, reliable internet connectivity. According to recent data published by UNESCO, around 50% of the world's schools remain unconnected to the internet, and about 90% of students living in rural Southeast Asia are unconnected. So this is a significant issue, and as I mentioned, a core barrier to EdTech adoption in the region. This is a heat map which is looking at average download speeds across Southeast Asia. And you can see that the average is around 5 to 10 megabits per second. But we know that in order to facilitate just basic online teaching that isn't, utilizing any fancy AI software, this is just accessing online learning materials. You need about 50 to 100. So where there is connectivity, it's still lacking, it's still insufficient for the needs of modern digital learning practices. And that's significant because it is a core feature that's growing the digital divide in K-12. We know from our research conducted with both students and teachers that there are many implications to the digital divide. Most of them are very obvious. Of course, without access to digital learning, students miss out on being trained on what is now completely essential digital skills. They also cannot have access to personalised and multimodal learning, which again our research has proven increases knowledge retention as well as engagement, and ultimately not only increases learning outcomes, but leads to teachers which are more engaged, more motivated. Their passion for teaching, which they had when they started their training, doesn't wane like you've seen in so many statistics over the years. That is inevitably fueling the teaching crisis. Conversely, if students don't have access to a form of digital learning, they do have limited employability because they don't have those essential digital skills, which of course then reduces their future career options, and ultimately we do see in our data lower learning outcomes. And so this panel today, we're discussing what does it mean to actually have to teach in low connectivity classrooms, and we'll be discussing how to get around those challenges, what are the practical solutions, and then what are the pathways, how can we get over this barrier, how can we work together towards systemic change. So I am very honoured to be joined here today by a distinguished panel of leading educators and industry experts. I have with me here Ari Ulisiana. Ari, would you like to introduce your background?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a teacher, professional high school teacher in Indonesia for almost 20 years teaching. And I'm also the teacher trainer for the teachers in remote areas in Indonesia in collaboration with the Indonesia Teaching Fellowship.
Thank you. I'm also joined by Stephanie Uni.
Hi everyone, I'm Stefina. I'm the Chief Business Officer of Kipin. We are an education technology company, but we focus on rural schools. So we have a solution that essentially allows schools to go digital, access all of the curriculum content that they need digitally, even without internet. So we've been around for almost 10 years, and 10 years ago people told me that internet will be there. But unfortunately, as your data shows, we're still working on it, and so that's why our solution is being used in about 3,000 schools today, and we're based in Indonesia.
Thank you. And also, last but no means least, we have Elia Benissa.
Thank you, Claire. Hello, everyone. Actually, this topic hits home to me because I grew up in a small town in Indonesia where electricity even intermittent, let alone internet. So I'm Velia. I'm from Some Education Foundation. We're working and giving free learning access to youth and kids. We're a non-profit organization and a social enterprise as well. Actually, I was one of the beneficiaries back then, almost 6 years ago. I started my journey at Some Education as a learner, couldn't speak English, and then I joined every program that I could. So I can see firsthand how learning with limited connectivity really hits home to me. So I'm really excited to be here learning from the other panelists as well.
Thank you. So we can start, Harry, by discussing the everyday challenges that are involved with teaching in low connectivity in classrooms.
Great, thank you. So, learning without signal, the situation in the classroom or at the schools, especially in Indonesia, I think we have also similarities in Malaysia or other countries in Southeast Asia, that both teacher and students still struggling about the internet connection. In the city with the good infrastructure, sometimes students also cannot access that good access internet, even more in the remote areas. And when I visit Bett UK at January 2025, I can see, wow, the technology is sophisticated. Some of technology I've never seen before, cutting edge technology. I first time see that touchscreen globe that we can going around with touchscreen globe. It's my first time to see that things. And then when I'm back to Indonesia, the situation really different. Yeah, and I'm jealous, of course. Why students in the Europe have a good facility, but in some areas are not. But we cannot thinking, okay, let them study with the traditional way because they have no infrastructure. We cannot say like that because the students with the good technology and the students from the poor technology area will meet together in the future. So we cannot leave them behind. And the situation in Indonesia is very complex. Last week I asked my friend in Merauke, Papua, the eastern part of Indonesia, how is the situation of internet access today? Oh, in this month we have so many problems because we heard that a submarine network have a problem, so they cannot have an internet connection. They should pay more expensive to switch to other platform, and it's hard for them. And then when we are talking about AI, about the coding 3 months ago, I still give the training for the teachers in remote area. They still learning with quizzes, now with Waygrown, quizzes paper mode. It's a big disparity, really a big gap of situation. Yeah. And I think what can we do is we should help the teacher and students, because the teacher will have double task, struggling with the internet connection and struggling to keep their student motivated to learn, because it's very hard if we cannot access anything in our mobile phone. It's very hard. So the problem of the teacher is very big. And also in the remote area, teachers not face about the internet connection, but also electricity. Yeah. When I was a teacher trainer by Zoom, the committee told me, Bu Ari, if some participant couldn't join, it means the electricity is off in their area. And some of the participants struggling to find the place to go, like to climb the hill, or I don't know, climbing the tree, I don't know, finding the good place so they can get that internet connection. So I think the solution providers should thinking more to have a like low bandwidth product or hybrid inclusive to learning. And we can also help by the CSR or corporate social responsibility, like Indonesia Teaching Fellowship doing. They ask for sponsor for many companies. And learning without signal, it's not about missing the internet connection. It's not about missing the internet connection, but also missing the opportunity, missing the voices, and also missing the futures. Thank you.
Such a perfect way to end that question. There are just so many challenges involved in teaching and learning in low connectivity areas, and I think that the point that you made about the impact that it has on the students and how at such a young age they're already demotivated, that's just so incredibly sad, because we want children to just be full of hope and just have every wish in the world, right? And to have that diminished at such a young age is terrible. So I'd like now to just discuss what technology can do to overcome these major challenges. Safina, would you like to start?
Yeah, I really appreciated the sharing. I think that's very real, and I think that's also what we see in a lot of the schools that we work with. To be very, very blunt, it's you can't tell a student, please wait for the internet and then we'll get you the technology. That's simply not realistic. But unfortunately, right now, I think a lot of us in ed tech design with that in mind. We say, okay, I mean, assuming there's internet, but the thing is there isn't. Assuming there's internet, everything works great. And I think where we've sort of had to do a lot of like development, do a lot of iterating, is to really, really question and be ruthless about sort of that product and frankly business design, I think. So how technology works, I think, in low connectivity settings is actually very, very, very different. We really need to remove ourselves from the reality of, let's say, this ballroom. I sort of think about it in 3 levels. One is on the digital level. Often our fatal flaw is over-speccing. I love AI. ChatGPT has saved my life so many times. But unfortunately, if that AI is going to weigh down my, so what we do is we have a hardware that we put in the classroom and you just turn it on and you don't need internet and you can go digital. If AI weighs that down, if it makes it too expensive for someone to use, if it makes it require a lot more processing power and internet power, it may not be worth it for me to put it in there. Maybe that's not what they need. So really being super ruthless about the features that are required. Once upon a time we wanted to put in Zoom in there, we wanted to put in chat features, we wanted to put in cool, like awesome things, and those are awesome, but actually the most boring features have been the most popular ones, which is, okay, you can download all of this content, you don't need internet, you don't need a SIM card, and it works offline. And that's what's really helped on the digital front. In a classroom setting also, that's like the second level, I would say. So let's say, okay, this thing works offline, but let's say content-wise, it doesn't actually fit into the day-to-day of a teacher. We had to think a lot about that. How does this content actually get used? Culturally, does it make sense for them to actually use this? Is it a tool that's really scary to use? Do you need a really complex IT support team to set it up? Once we had Kipin, before the version that we have now, it was like a desktop laptop with like a keyboard, and then there was a mouse, and then there was this big PC, and then of course, the keyboards all broke, like keys would go missing, the mouse got stolen, nobody knew how to set up like a Windows sort of software at the time in that area, and that's the reality. So it had no place inside the classroom, unfortunately. So now what we've done is, conversely, we've made it a one-button feature in 3 minutes. It works. And the content inside is fully aligned with curriculum. So teachers find that very unscary because they see, oh, these are Ministry of Education teachers just like me, and these are people that have been certified. This is exactly how it fits into my lesson plan, and that removes a lot of friction on a classroom level. And then maybe lastly, I would say on a systemic level, thinking about actually how do we, so I'm a social enterprise, so we're not a non-for-profit because we really want our profit to sustain our innovation as well. But we've had to think a lot also about who's gonna fund this? Like how, unfortunately, that is the reality. Technology needs to have that funding in order to put a place in the school. So we had to take a long, hard look at, okay, what is the funding in schools allowed to be used for? Are we in line with that? Can we design for that? So I think creating a technology solution actually for a low connectivity setting is it's an ordeal. It's a commitment, and it can't be what we designed for Jakarta or Malaysia or KL plus a few more features. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you for that. And it's really interesting actually when you mentioned about just how much work has to go into the content, because the solution sounds wonderful, but I guess that there is so much focus on ensuring that the content is perfect, because unlike in classrooms that have access to the internet, where you can just change what content you have access to in a second, these classrooms just don't have that, do they? It's just not possible for them to be so flexible, to be so adaptive. Right, and thank you. So, Elia, can you please just talk about your solution and the work that you've been doing in Indonesia?
Thank you. Actually, I prepared
Yes.
Okay, so when people ask us how we actually built the solution of delivering our program that is mostly in the rural area of Indonesia, right? So this is how we do it. We develop our own learning platform. It's free, web-based and AI-powered. We call it Edward.ai. So you can also simply check that if you have a browser as well. So we really want the students to have the access, even if they have very low bandwidth connectivity, and if they only have low-end device that they can access. So we built this, and we combine it with our engagement tools, which we call it GAIN framework, GAIN. So gamification is to keep them learning, motivate them to come back learning with small wins. For example, if they answer questions, they get points, and then they can actually be in the leaderboard or whatsoever. And then the teachers in the school can use this, can adapt this to actually maybe to make a fun games in class. So that's what we do for gamification. And then AI coach, this also designed to be adapted with a thin network as well, where they can, so the AI can actually guide the students to then personalize it as well based on how they behave in the platform. And then next we have incentives. So this is not just a screen time kind of incentive, like in-app incentives. Yes, we have in-app incentives, but the most important thing is that when they use this platform, it also can benefit them in real life. For example, I talked about the learning points. It's not just to buy avatars, for example, in the platform, but also they can kind of buy a voucher for them to join a workshop. So before they really get these opportunities in real life, they need to put an effort to learn. And not only that, we also connected with opportunities like employability, with the partnerships with the companies as well. And the other thing, workshops, training, and other things. And then lastly, network. This one is actually really, I can see firsthand how this is really important, because what I felt, not only connectivity, but also the community when I was there in that small town when I was a kid. They mock me if I speak English. They're like, why don't you just speak Indonesian? So it's not supportive. What we build in our ecosystem is also a supportive network, supportive community where they can give feedback to each other. So that's basically how we do. So AI deliver the learning, and game make it stick. So gamification to hook them, AI coach to guide them, incentive to make it sustain, and a network to support the learners.
Oh, fantastic, what a brilliant initiative. Just incredibly creative, and a brilliant use of technology where there is limited connectivity, especially with the network. I think that's fantastic to have that confidence that you're not alone is so powerful, to have people that you relate to, especially when you're young. Fantastic. I just want to just broaden this topic of creativity and just go back into the classroom where teachers perhaps don't have access to these brilliant solutions that we've just discussed. And Ari, if you could just talk a little about some of the incredibly resourceful techniques or teaching methods that you've come across or maybe utilise yourself over the years when teaching in low connectivity environments.
Okay, thank you. I think what we need are the right mindset of the teacher and also the creativity, because there are so many kind of app of technology. So I think teachers can use by adapting with the situation, using it creativity. Like in the session before, when I'm playing Kahoot in the classroom, which have no LCD projector or LCD screen, I simply use my laptop as the main screen and it still works. So the creativity and the right mindset of the teacher is very important.
Absolutely. And do you believe that, I imagine that it's very difficult though to maintain that passion, because you were mentioning earlier that teachers, well, the students as well as the teachers are feeling quite dismayed by the fact that they're continually have to, work around this major barrier. Could you just speak a little about the impact that it's having on teachers and their motivation and just their passion in general?
Okay, so I think before using the technology, teacher should also talking about the digital literacy. Before our students hold a technology, they should have the right mindset before. So it should work together between the technology and the digital literacy. If not, they will use it in the wrong way, and it's very dangerous.
No, absolutely. And I just want to discuss a little about the systemic change that's required here. So I was just wondering, Stefino, if you could just talk about the government policies or initiatives that are required in order to overcome low connectivity, which I know is such a major topic and one that differs significantly depending on which country we're looking into in Southeast Asia. But given your experience in this area, it would be interesting to get your perspective.
Yeah, Maybe just to also bridge from the previous question, I actually really find that teachers, students in rural areas are really, really, really enthusiastic. I would say there are students who live like 2 hours away from the nearest school, and they are walking early in the morning in the dark to get to school. What's sad is that unfortunately the school is not sometimes sufficiently resourced to support that enthusiasm. So I think having spoken to a lot of education people, and we're all in sort of the education industry here, we know that the problems in education have always been this, right? It's access, it's how do we get the resources to the teachers. It's actually not that education is not rich with plenty of money, but somehow it's going places that we're not sure are the most effective. So I think actually from a systemic level, it's really hard to be super specific. My thoughts on this are that I think that what I see is that it's, what I would really love to see is everyone actually just doing what they do best. So what I mean by that is oftentimes we see, so education is a public good, we have to work together with the government. I really see the private sector as sort of an extension of like the last mile delivery for a lot of government direction. I think I spoke about this at a webinar a couple of days ago when we were discussing with a few ministers, but then I think what we were talking about is, wouldn't it be great if, from us as a private sector, our strength really is innovation. I think that's where private sector thrives. We do have a little bit of a higher risk appetite. It's that very, fail fast, fail forward kind of thought. But that brings out a lot of cool innovation. And innovation might mean, as we were speaking about, making it super simple so that certain areas can use it and it's really localized. But where we need more guidance, and instead of, to prevent having private sector do scattered pilots, is a lot of clarity and direction from the government standpoint. And right now, I think there is sometimes a tendency for sometimes government to sort of want to do it themselves because they do have a bit of a risk appetite. They want to control the quality of it and things like that. But where we've seen the most success is when, for example, we had a pilot with the Ministry of Religion in Indonesia. It started off with a pilot with 2 schools that they chose. These 2 schools were actually very, 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 very far from the nearest city, and they picked them because they're the most rural. And they said, there's no way you can succeed here, but if you can, I'm willing to scale this up in a significant way. So there's a clear pathway, a clear incentive for private sector to innovate. And if we are doing something good, then there's a way for us to scale that up. And what ended up happening is we did a 3-month pilot. We saw scores increase up to 65% in reading and writing. And it actually scaled up to become 1,000 schools in the next year or so. So I actually thought that was so effective because there is regulation, there is a clear objective from the government, there is funding allocated towards clear pilots and clear data measurement. The framework was shared to us as well. I found that to be really successful, and I would love to see that, I suppose, on a more systemic, bigger level.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So scalability driven by the private sector but governed by government. Brilliant. I realise we only have a couple of minutes left, but I would like to give each of you an opportunity to just discuss, to ask if you could prioritise one action in the next 5 years to advance educational equity, especially in low connectivity regions. What would it be? Maria, can I go to you first?
Yeah, sure. So if you ask me, maybe I would like to prioritize to make the learning inclusive, because I can resonate with Blue Ari where our beneficiaries need to climb the hill to get the internet just to learn. So to build on very inclusive and lightweight digital learning platform, that would be great with the support of so many parties. So yeah, that's from me.
Fantastic. Sabina, what would be yours?
I think just let's really, really design solutions that are for those specific users. Let's not have sort of our imagination about it, but really just be real and really talk to those people and hopefully make some gains in that direction.
And Mary?
I hope we can have more inclusive lesson, inclusive technology we can use in many areas. And I hope for the provider solution, please not only give teacher the product, but also let's collaborate with teacher to co-create the product.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found a lot of value from this session. I know I certainly have. It's been so interesting to hear about how resourceful teachers are being in these low connectivity environments, and fantastic work that the private sector is doing to overcome this major issue. And hopefully we will see more examples of how the private sector is working with government to create scalable solutions. We do have a couple of minutes left if there are any questions. No? Okay, well thank you very much. Oh, there's one question.
In your view, how can we balance the advantage of digital access in urban schools with the equally valuable In your view, how can we balance the advantage of digital access in urban schools with the equally valuable hands-on and play-based learning experiences often found in rural schools?
What a brilliant question. Harry, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So this is we balance it with the game framework. So it's not only the technology, because technology is a tool, right? So how they actually use this tool to adapt the learning, right? So for example, if you give the technology to the kids, they will be more fluent than us, to use it. But then how they can really absorb the learning from the platform. That's why we make it gamified. AI coach to be there, not to replace the teacher, but then teacher needs sleep. So if they're learning in the middle of the night, then they don't have to wait for the teacher to wake up. And then again, network to make it hybrid offline. So we activate the local communities, not necessarily only the educators, but also their peers, to give them feedback, and also to make their own fun activities so that they can turn learning in a fun way. Thank you.
Well, unless there are any further questions, thank you all again for your time, and I hope you all have a safe journey home.